Hi, everyone. My name is Siamak, and this is my Geosynthetics podcast. I am very excited today for this episode. And as you can see, I have a very, very special guest, Professor Jorge Zornberg, one of the very, very well-known people in the geosynthetics industry, is my guest today. Welcome, Jorge, to my podcast. Thank you for your time and for talking to me and my audience today.
Thank you for having me here. I'm looking forward to this meeting.
Thank you. I start with your career, Jorge. Everyone knows you as a professor in geotechnical engineering, and you are actually a professor in University of Texas. But I know you have lots of other activities. I want to know about your career a little bit more. Where did you start in this industry, and how did you end up being an academic person?
Okay, so geosynthetics. So I I was advancing in my education and I was changing countries. So I did my undergrad in civil engineering in Argentina. Soon after finishing, I went to Brazil. I did a master's degree there, and I was a numerical modeler. So I was doing constitutive modeling and behavior of clays and tunneling and all that stuff. And then I started my PhD in Berkeley, California. And I was working with Professor Jim Mitchell, and he said, hey, I have a project on soil reinforcement using geosynthetics. What about if you take on this project? So and that was the beginning. So I knew what geosynthetics were because I was a graduate student, but I had never worked with geosynthetics. So my initial exposure to geosynthetics was through research. But then I went after graduation, actually did not go straight to academia, I went to industry. I worked with geosyntech consultants. And at that point, I interacted with many of the people, JP Juru, for example, so that I worked with him. So I started working with geosynthetics, but not only on soil reinforcement, in many other areas. And eventually I decided to move on to academia. And geosynthetics, as you know, is a good fraction of what today I do. So
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned you started in Argentina, then to Brazil, and then now in the United States. I remember the first time I met you in person because I always saw your name on the papers that I was working, and you know, the first time was when both of us were in a conference, and in the hotel that we were staying, I met you in person first time in there. In the elevator, and you were talking to someone else in a language that I didn't have a clue what language it is. And I asked you, what language is this? And you said, this is Portuguese. And I said, oh, are you Portuguese? And you said, no, I'm from Argentina to Brazil and United States. So I think you're sort of multilingual. You can speak different languages.
that is true. That is true. So Spanish and Portuguese and I'm working on my English. Let me put it that way. So
No, that's very good. Jorge, so you talked about research in geosynthetics, and this is my second question. So, why do you think research is important? That's my first question. Why do you think research in geosynthetics
mhm.
be very, very important? And what's your opinion about the current status of research in the geosynthetics industry?
Okay, that's well, research. I love research. So it's a feeling that you are at the frontier, at the edge of knowledge, and the feeling of being able to push that frontier and making that frontier a little bit farther is a great feeling. So that's research in general. Now, research in geosynthetics, I think that geosynthetics are what they are because we are doing research on geosynthetics. So let me illustrate something. I do a lot of research. One of the areas that I'm working on in geosynthetics right now is on geosynthetics in roadways. So uh, geosynthetics are very help us do projects in a very ingenious way, in a smart way. We can tailor the project because we can tailor the properties of geosynthetics. So, but in many cases, we continue to need the research. For example, and this is very much the case in roadways, we know that geosynthetics work, but we did not know why they work. So they work, but we did not know why they work. So that's when the pursuit of research comes. And it's not trivial because we need to go from what are the mechanisms that make it work, and then what are the functions of the geosynthetics that make it work. Only after that we get into what are the properties, and then the design that we need to go through the entire process. So very often we come by and we say, okay, this is my product, give me the specifications. No, we need the specifications, you need the properties, then we need the functions, and we need, so in order, there's a long route in order to go from the specifications to solving the problem. And that's very unique with geosynthetics. What else can I tell you? I'm against commoditization. So there is a group within us, within the geosynthetics community. Oh, we need to commoditize geosynthetics. That will make it more attractive from the commercial point of view. I'm 100% against it. So geosynthetics need to be unique and need to be special and need to solve problems in a very special way. And we need to promote research in order to continue doing it this way. So geosynthetics do not need to be cheap. They need to add significant value. So that's how I see the geosynthetics use in research.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this takes me to another question actually, which is connecting research and industry and also societies, for example, such as IGS, International Geosynthetics Society. So one thing is that as we know, there is a lecture now called Zornberg's lecture. So I want to hear your comment about that. I think it's a very it's a big honor for yourself to have that lecture announced by IGS, and also generally because you have been serving the society for many years, and you were at the top as the president of IGS for I think 4 years or around that. Just want to know your opinion, your comments about IGS society activities, why they are important, and a little bit about the Zornberg lecture.
Oh, um, well, I think that joining the IGS, joining a professional society is an opportunity to make a difference. Mm-hmm. So one way is research, but this is really to get into the heart of how that research, how the progress is going to make it into the engineering projects. And the IGS is the venue for that. So it allows us to make a difference with the products that we're investigating, that we want to use or we plan to use. Now, as a president, we did a lot, but it was because we had a great team. So, and I'm very pleased to see many of the aspects that were initiated while I was president continued today and with a lot of force. So, Educate the Educators was initiated during my presidency. Another program that is called the Ambassadors Program was initiated. The technical committees did not exist at that time, and they all started at that point. The Young Members Committee, all those were initiated during that period, and it required a lot of work. But you know what was my most important work as a president? It was essentially to do nothing. That was my most important job, but to make sure that everyone else was busy. And so it's essentially being able to delegate in order to do these many things. So it's essentially, but there is a big caveat. So I was my goal was to do nothing, but I was still responsible for everything. So
Yep.
if something goes wrong, I am the one that needs to jump in to
Mhm.
get it done. So
Yep.
that was an important, very, very, very important experience and a very rewarding experience serving the IGS as president.
Yep. And the Zornberg lecture.
The Zornberg lecture, well, it's an enormous honor. It's an enormous honor. Some people will tell me, "Oh, you have a lecture in your name, but you're still not dead." But it's very special for me that it is in Geoamericas because working in the Americas is something that is very, very special for me. Yeah,
Yep.
very special.
Mm. Yeah, I think you talked about the ETE, so that will be my next question because I listened to your lecture, online lecture actually, about the importance of the Educate the Educator program. And Australians know you came to Australia in 2019 for that Educate the Educator program down here. So I just want to know your comment about that, if you want to elaborate on some of the points that you made during that online lecture as well.
Yeah. I think that Educate the Educator is a very, very important program, not because we create or we convey information that doesn't exist everywhere else. Actually, the goal of Educate the Educator is not necessarily, yes, there is an educational component, how to present material in an educational way, but really the goal is very simple and very difficult. Very simple because the goal is to make sure is to give a 1 hour lecture and 1 hour introductory lecture on geosynthetics. That's the goal. If we achieve that goal, we're done.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big but, uh, that 1 hour lecture needs to be given to all, every one of the civil engineering undergraduate students. Not only, first, to undergrads that we typically do not have them in our undergraduate curriculum, but not only for those that are interested in geotech. Is if you're interested in construction management, you take that one lecture. If you are interested in environmental, of course. If you're interested in roadways, of course. So that is an important goal, to make sure that every undergraduate student gets that lecture. And now this is the challenge, to convince the geotechnical professors to give it. That is the challenge. So our big goal is to work with the professors, not only so that they learn how to give the lecture, but also to convince them that they need to give that lecture, that is important for the students to offer that lecture at the undergraduate level. So I was always against, let me put it this way, any online platform to
Yeah.
give the Educate the Educator, because I thought, okay, we need to indoctrinate the professors. We need them in person and
Yeah.
convince them. It's very hard. But with the current situation, we're going to have our first ETE online.
Okay.
IGS Brazil is working on that. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's a very, very good initiative. And as I was talking to you before, in Australia, had a very good impact and very positive feedback that we received from the university lecturers who attended this event. And we are being asked to provide at least a 2-hour lecture in one of the subjects of civil or geotechnical engineering, which is a really good sign. And it's a very positive feedback we're receiving for that. My last question, Jorge, is about back again to your career. So, as you talked about your academic achievements and also your society achievements, um, I want to know what is the highlight of your career. What is the one thing that you always remember as a highlight? It can be more than one highlight, but I just want to know what that highlight is and why do you think that's the highlight?
okay. Yeah, as an academic, we always typically highlight, oh, I got this award and I got this other award, and I'm not gonna get there. So let me give you something different, which is the satisfaction of, I told you that as a president, my goal was to do nothing.
Yeah.
But before I was president, I was working a lot. One of the big initiatives that I worked very, very hard with a wonderful group of people was with Americas. And we put together the first Geo-Americas conference. That was 2008. It's the last of the regional conferences of the IGS. And I was the chair of that conference, and putting it together was a big, big initiative. But we had to put together a regional conference, but we only had at the time 3 chapters in all the Americas. So another parallel goal was to create more chapters.
Yeah.
So overnight we went from 3 to 6 chapters at the time, and then that kept growing. So I could say a good, I want to think of a big achievement is potentially having contributed to the growth of the good use of geosynthetics in the Americas with those type of initiatives. So I could highlight that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. I think we just recently had on the IGS news that the survey that IGS were busy doing, I think end of 2019, about the chapters around the world, and we know somewhere around 45 chapters of IGS are actually actively working in different countries at the moment, and the top 5, 3 of them were, or 2 of them were from South America. So Brazil chapter and Chile factor, they were both within the top 5, and I want to be to also say that Australia was one of the top 5 as well.
Ah, there you go. Excellent, congratulations.
Thank you, and yeah, very, very big achievement. Jorge, it was very good talking to you and meeting you again. This time online, so hopefully we can meet again. I know Geo-America, as you mentioned, was planned to be held in October this year, but it's now going online. So maybe that's where we meet again online. And we have invited you to provide a webinar to the Australasian chapter, which we are really looking forward to that one as well. Thank you for your time, and thank you for talking to us for my Geosynthetics podcast. And we'll catch you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.